thing. And I'm like, I can't do that. Like, I can't tell you. Obviously, every once in a while, I got to go out and have a drink with a buddy or like get dinner with a buddy because I haven't seen that person in a while. I love all my friends, but I would much rather be sitting at home on the couch or out, at night watching a movie or out in the yard throwing a ball around, chasing my kids around the swing set. And I obviously have pictures of me and my kids doing that outside as well. But to me, it's not always about the picture. Like, if I snap a good picture of the three of us, I'm like, that's a great picture, and then I throw it up on Facebook. But I don't have a lot of pictures of us doing all the stuff that we do, and I'm sure you probably don't either. I mean, just...
No, I do.
Do you?
And the reason why I make a point, and not necessarily just for Facebook, although that
does
become
absolutely.
the photo albums now, but because I do want those memories, man. I'm a very symbolic type person.
Yeah.
So yeah, I will think a lot of times like, and sometimes you're right. I don't have. I would be like after the moment. I'm like,
right.
Man, it'd be great if we had a picture of that.
Exactly right.
So if I am in the moment and I think about it, I'll say, hey, honey, can you take a picture real quick? Or because I do like that. I like I said, this show. I'm very in tune to that. I want to leave memories, a legacy for my daughter. So I will think about that quite a bit. But yeah, there's times where my wife, she babysits 2 kids, so she doesn't punch in to work, but she's a very good nanny, very, very involved.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying that because my wife, she really is an
right.
nanny. It's more than just babysitting, and the family loves her. And it's funny, it's one of those things where the family thinks of her as a blessing and she thinks of them as a blessing.
Right.
So it definitely works both ways. But I'll see pictures that my wife will send me throughout the day, and they'll be at Santa's Village or they'll be at, and I'm like, man, I'm missing out, and I just feel so bad that I'm missing out on my daughter growing up. Yeah. Because of work.
No, and I'll have that where all of a sudden you'll be sitting there, and like I said about the life mixes, every once in a while on my phone, I've got most of them on there generally, and I'll hear a song and I'll be like, oh, I remember when me and Gus and Penny were doing this.
Yeah.
And then I sit there and I kind of look at the brick wall that's outside my window there, and I'm like, I feel like I'm just like, longing for being outside doing whatever. But then I get snapped back to reality where I'm like, if I was to do that, I wouldn't have a job. We wouldn't have the house. We wouldn't have a car. We wouldn't be able to do anything. And I mean, don't get me wrong. Obviously, if I was so inclined to do that, we'd figure something out. But as of right now, going back to the 50s family, that's kind of the mindset that I've always been in. Like, it's my job to go out and make money. And I realize that that's kind of a little bit off kilter myself. That times they are a changin', to quote Bob Dylan again. But yeah, so I think we're on the same page in that regard.
Yeah, it's not the family structure's changed because the economy has changed so much. You
Yeah.
can't have the one person working now. It's like 2 people do need to be working.
Yeah.
There's some people that are blessed enough that they can be the sole provider, but that's a rare type of thing,
It is. I mean, it is, because even in your case, Melinda, she's working. It's not like she's just sitting at home, watching Madeline. She's got a job of her own, and I mean, that's fantastic. Her job, it sounds fantastic, but yeah, I mean, she has to be working as well, and it's like my wife and I, we have to be working, and because otherwise we can't afford to live in our society, which again brings us back to the ridiculousness of our society. But yeah, it's I mean, it's just interesting to me when like I said, when you scroll through Facebook, because I'm like, I know you're not that person on Facebook. Going through back to the pictures that I was talking about, like some of those people, I'm like, I know you're not that person.
Yeah,
but they have to create the art.
They're creating an illusion. Like, oh look, and I know what you're saying. I know some of those people too, where they are like that. They're it's like a photo op. It's almost like when you take like a politician, and they take their jacket off,
right, and that means they're
coat.
Cool, and
or they show up at the site and they unbutton their top button of their dress shirt,
right.
They roll up the sleeves, and then they put the hard hat on and they dig the first little for the building, one little, and then they put the jacket back on, put the tie back on, and it's just for the photo op.
And just say, have fun, guys. Right.
Yeah, the illusion is, wow, they're really in there working, or they're a man of the people.
Yeah. And to me, that doesn't make any sense. Because like I said, I mean, that actually makes me just so irritated, because I'm like, why don't you just, instead of taking all the time to get the photographer and to go out and drive out to the forest preserve and to put on nice clothes and to throw your kid up in the air that one time, take all that time and effort you just spent in there, just take your kid outside and run around for 5 minutes, like, or 10 minutes or half an hour, whatever it is. I mean, because for me, when I take Gus and Penny out in the backyard, we're running around, all of a sudden time ceases to exist. We're out there, and I look down. I'm like, oh man, we've been out here for like 4 hours, and we're still running around. Like, we got to go do stuff. We got to go, do whatever we got to do. Get ready for bed. And I love that. I love when time ceases to exist for my family. I think that's fantastic.
Yesterday, I went out back. My wife and I both went out in the backyard and played with my daughter. And I could tell you, man, it was one of the best times ever.
Oh, I agree.
And I mean, just kicking a ball high, and Daddy, do it again,
Right,
because I could kick it real high, especially according to her,
Yeah.
And it was fun. We were chasing the ball, and I saw something before where it said, I may have said this on the air before, I can't remember, but a child, I think I did say this before, a child spells love Time.
Yes, you did.
And
Yeah.
I thought, man, that's so true.
It is. It's absolutely true.
Yeah,
And
you could say I love you, but spend the time with that child.
Yeah.
Read to that child.
you can say it all day, every day, but if you are saying it as you're walking out the door or doing whatever, that they're gonna remember that too. They're not going to just remember the fact that you said I love you to them. They're going to remember the fact that we went outside and we ran up the slide and we went down the slide and I chased him around and acted like a zombie. So
You want to hear something about, again, how that is so true? Like an example, we went to the fair on Saturday night.
Okay.
And the big slide that you go down.
Oh, yeah.
My daughter's too young to go down by herself, so I got to go with her, right? She's overly excited. I mean, she was crazy excited that we were going to go on that slide together, right?
Right.
So I had her walk up the stairs in front of me just in case she fell back, I'd be able to catch her, because this is it goes way up.
No, it's way up there.
Stairs are way up there. And again, just overly excited, just like crazy happy,
Yeah.
So we're walking up there. She turns around, she comes back, she goes, Daddy, can I have a kiss? And I was like, oh, it melted my heart. Of course.
Yeah.
But the reason she did that was because she was just so happy that I was going to go down the slide with her.
Yeah.
And
it's something that minute that, really, if you don't have children or even if you do sometimes, you don't realize that something that is a pinprick.
Oh, yeah.
Literally changes their entire view.
Totally, man. And it goes both ways.
Oh, yeah.
Like you can, that one little thing, it could go the bad. It could go the other way.
Yeah, exactly right.
And you got to be aware of that at all times.
Yeah.
And I knew it too. My wife and I talked about it. When I said, "Did you see when she turned around and kissed me?"
Right.
And my daughter said, "Yeah, she was just so happy to be with you."
Yeah.
And to go down the slide. I mean, it wasn't all me. It was the fact that I was going down the slide with her.
Right.
It meant everything to her.
Yeah.
And so there is that perfect example of a child spells love Time.
Yeah, I agree.
Spending time with that child.
And that's, obviously I said we've got the Disney trip coming up, but we decided we've got a calendar in our kitchen, and I put Walt Disney World at one point, and then we just went through, and something so simple, I told Gus and Penny, we're going to just mark off the days, as we go along. So, and we missed a couple because we were running around doing stuff, whatever, and they'd fallen asleep in the car or whatever, and so the other day we went through and I was like, all right, before we do anything else, let's go over to the calendar, let's mark these off. And every single X that I put on that calendar, Gus's eyes got bigger and bigger. And he was like, couldn't even contain himself. He's standing there and he's all shaky and he's like, oh man, there's only X amount of days left. And I'm like, yeah, let's get. And so he's running around the kitchen. And to me, I was like, it's an X on a calendar. Well, I just wanted to kind of mark down to see where we were, but to him that was like fireworks, and it is. I mean, I think that's how, and I think that a lot of parents need to realize that too. Don't get me wrong. I realize there's a lot of great parents out there. I know a lot of them, but there's also the parents that are kind of like, I'm too busy. I got to go do this. I got to go do that. So,
and that's the part that breaks my heart. Like
it
when
does.
I have to go to work, and there are times where my daughter will come up to me just as I'm about to walk out the door and say, Daddy, can you come play with me?
Yeah.
And it kills me to say, honey, I can't. I got to go to work, because I see it breaking her heart.
No, absolutely.
And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Every time I hear Harry Chapin's Cats in the Cradle,
yes.
as an adult male with children, like as a kid, you're like, oh, this is kind of a sad song. And then you listen to it now, and I'm like, seriously, what?
Yeah.
So,
because there will be that time, unfortunately, when they are teenagers.
Yeah.
And you're going to always be wrong. And you're not going to know what they're going through.
And you're going to be uncool. They won't want to hang out with you or be seen with you. Yeah.
They got to head outside and be far away from you. And that's the stuff that's going to break my heart. I've always said, like, the day my daughter gets married, I'm going to cry.
Oh,
I know
God, yeah.
The day I have to give her away.
Yeah.
Or the day she starts dating 75 years from now.
Yeah, oh yeah. So 75, that's young.
Yeah. It's just, I just start thinking, like, the day that another man becomes the main focus in her life. like I'm not the main man in her life.
Yeah.
It's gonna destroy me, man.
Yeah.
I love that little girl.
No, I know exactly how you feel, and it's funny you say that because my wife took my son. This was back when it was just Gus, and she took my son to the park one day. And you know, kids at the park, they run up, and this little girl, probably a couple years older than my son, ran up and she's like, "Do you want to play?" And she grabs his hand, and Gus is like, "Yeah," and they run off. And my wife just stood there, and she's telling me this later, and she's like, "That little kid just came up and took my son."
Yeah.
And you could tell she was ready to go and just like push this girl down and be like, "You better be nice to my boy."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, "Great, so we've got that to look forward to when we start dating, or when they start dating, rather." So
It is funny too, because like if I had a son and a little girl came up and took my son away, I'd be like, "Hey,
yeah, that's
good
how I
job,
was
boy."
like, "Good for him,
Yeah.
way to go."
Let me tell you
But-
something, boy.
Yeah, and
good boy.
And you know, my wife is always like, "You cannot have double standards," because obviously I'm like, Gus can start dating whenever he wants.
Yeah.
Penny has to wait until she's minimum 30 to 40 years
Yeah,
old.
yeah.
So, yeah. So-
I know, and I always like she'll say, my wife will joke with her like, you know, of course it's like a cartoon character, like who's your boyfriend, and it's
Yeah.
whatever, Kristoff from
Right.
you know, Frozen, and no, Daddy's your boyfriend. Like I better be the only man in your life for a while now,
Right, yeah.
You know. So yeah, I like how we got off on that. Let me ask you one more thing, and then we'll move on from this subject. But since we are kind of, it seems like we're dedicating the show to our kids.
Yeah.
At this point, what's one thing you'd like to say to your child? Like, what is something like you'd like to a life lesson to your child, to your children, I should say, in your case?
Yeah, I think that the most important thing that I can impart to them is just never give up. Like, I know that there's gonna be rough roads, there's gonna be rocky roads, and I think that that they just have to take each day as it comes, and they've got to know that there's a bigger, better picture at the end of the rainbow. And obviously, you know, I've dealt with that myself, where you know you look down and you're like, oh man, is this ever gonna end? This dark cloud, you know, when I was younger, obviously, and you're trying to figure out your life and figure out where you're going. But there is always something at the end of that. And I want them to know that, A, there's always something at the end, and B, and I've told my son this before, I haven't told my daughter yet. I mean, you know, she doesn't understand when I tell her. But there's always people around that love them. Like, we've surrounded them with such a great group of people that, to go back, would take a bullet for them. But that, you know, they have nothing to worry about in that capacity. They will always be loved. And I want them to know that, because, you know, sometimes it gets to where you get dark and you're like, geez, there's nobody out there that even cares. What am I doing here? And, but they've got, I mean, just such a great network of family and friends that are willing to be there for them, and they just love seeing them, seeing their faces, even, you know, just for a second. You know, when I take them over to my parents' house, I mean, if I stop by to drop something off or whatever, my mom and dad, they light up when they see these little faces coming through the door. So,
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I'd like to impart to them. But like I said, never give up. I mean, I want them to see what I've gone through, you know, as far as my books, my processes and everything, and know that they were around when that was going on. That was when they were little, and I was actually going out and I was working at that.
Yeah.
For them, I mean, obviously for myself, I'm not going to make it sound like it's a completely selfless act, but obviously at the end of the day, I want them to know, like, hey, Dad did this because he wanted to make a better life for everybody. Mm-hmm. So
Yeah, the sacrifices you made to hopefully create a better life.
Right. And I don't ever want to, and I'm sure you're the same way, I don't ever want to be like, whoa, when I was a kid, I did this for you. Like, I don't want to shove it down their throat, but I want them to know, like, hey, I did stuff, and, you know, and I did this with you in mind. Everything that I've done was with you in mind.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. One of the things I'd like to leave, there's a few things, but I've always had this, not always, but for a while now, I've had this success type mindset. Okay.
Yeah.
And it came a few years ago, and I remember in this mindset, I asked my grandmother, who's 93 now, but I asked her a few years ago, and I believe she might still be listening at this point, that I asked her, you know, look, the bottom line, she's 93. You know, and you know, and I don't mean this as an oppressing way, but, you know, I wanted to get information out of her while I could.
Absolutely,
you know?
yeah.
So, but I always keep telling her, too, that she's going to live to be at least 100. So, grandmother, like, I mean, know that you're going to go for a long time. Her mind's there, everything. So, I asked her, like, what's some wisdom? Like, what are some important things that you can leave behind? And I wrote them in my journal, so they're always there, but now I'll put them on the show. What are some words of wisdom that you'd like to pass on to me and that I could pass on to others? And she said, always trust in God, and because she's a very spiritual woman, so
Right.
her faith inspires me. And then the other thing she said is, do for others